Darkcast Network. Out of the shadows comes the best of indie podcasts. You are listening to Castles and Cryptids, where the castles are haunted and the cryptids are cryptic as fuck. Almost forgot the intro. It's not 100 episodes in, and I'm not Alanna. I've taken over her body. I mean,
I'm not Kelsey then.
Are you the anti-Kelsey?
Yeah. From
The
the
body
dark
snatchers.
timeline. Yeah.
Ooh, there's a Kelsey I've seen in chats at work that spells it Kelsea. Kelsey.
Oh, I've seen that before.
It is an interesting take. It's, there's so many
Yeah.
spellings and popular names that got used, like Aidens
I
and Cadens.
yeah, I think the most common one I've seen other than my spelling is like SIE. That's probably the next most common I've seen.
Really? Not just like
Yeah.
minus the E. Huh.
No, like I've seen it. It's enough that I've seen it on novelty keychains that you can
Oh,
buy. Like, you go on vacation, I'm gonna buy this little keychain. It'll have my spelling, and then beside it, it'll be like that one, SIE. And I'm like,
real? Oh,
oh,
yeah. I mean, like only 25% of the population can usually find their names on those. They're
yeah.
so bad for that. Because, yeah, I usually see Alanna with one N. That's usually the most common spelling I've seen of the other Alannas I've ever met, which are not
Yeah.
many. um,
Yeah.
yeah, and this is episode 104.
Or
What the hell? Yeah, we're just
yeah.
tugging right along. I guess you've just heard Filipino crimes, which was interesting to say the least.
Yeah.
They're not known for their crime, but that's what I
No.
like about those kind of international ones where we do feature different countries.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I put up a post about it on our Instagram today, and it said that there's so many islands in the Philippines, like over 7,000 or something, that it would take you like years to visit them all in one to
Yeah.
spend a day in one. I was like, what? That's
I've
crazy.
never heard that about the Philippines, but I've heard them say something similar about restaurants in New York City. That there's so many
Oh,
restaurants that all the
yeah.
restaurants that are open, like if you took today, all the restaurants that are open today, you in
Right.
your lifetime would never be able to visit all of those restaurants.
Unless
Like,
you
let
ate like
alone,
5 meals a day. Or
yeah,
even
let
then.
alone all the ones that are gonna open and end up closing and stuff in the future. Just the ones that are open in this very moment. You wouldn't be able to visit in
Maybe
your lifetime, which is crazy.
I could see it being like Jim Gaffigan that talked about that. He's a comedian. He likes talking about food, and he lives in New York with like his 5 children because he's crazy.
Something. I don't think I heard that even on stand up anything. It's just
No,
one of
you're
those
right.
like
You're right.
fun fact things that they do, random fun facts or something.
Yeah, it feels like something I heard someone repeat on a podcast.
Yeah, I've heard that one a lot though. So I was like, oh, so many people have said that one.
Interesting. Yeah, I found a few fun facts when I was making a little posty post. They also have a way of, if they're at war, the flag can be displayed differently. Like the red
Yeah.
and blue stripe gets inversed. And I was like, they have a war flag? Or that's the way it made it seem at first. So I was like, interesting.
Uh-huh. I noticed that when I was just looking at Instagram just before this, and I saw our post that you had made, and I was like,
Okay.
oh, that's interesting.
Yeah,
Right.
I thought it was kind of cool. And oh fuck. I was gonna say, what would we do with our flag? Turn it upside down, and then the maple leaf would be upside down.
Falling leaf.
People
Yeah.
would be like, "What's that? An upside down pot leaf?"
Uh, yeah, our flag doesn't look really any different when you turn it on its side because it's a minimalist flag for a lot
Oh,
of the
it's basically
countries out there. Yeah.
Japan's flag. Instead of a
Yeah.
dot, we have a maple leaf.
And we have stripes. We have 2 stripes.
Oh, they don't have the stripes. That's true. I do
Yeah.
remember there was an old heritage moment. I don't know. You Canadians, you guys. I love the heritage moment. It's
Yeah.
similar to the in a way, the Americans had the School of Rock and the I'm a
Mhm.
bill and it's a cartoon and it's how they make bills into law and different shit like that. And it's kind of like that. They're like educational. They're
Yeah.
historical, but to me, yeah, there's like I remember the ones where he's talking about the different flags and some of them were gonna have blue and like I can still kind of picture it. I'm like, ooh, that would have been weird. Then you get the random ones about like Winnie the Pooh. Because he's named after Winnipeg, which is in Manitoba. So
Yeah.
that was yeah, they're fun. They should still do shit like that. I'm sorry. Bring it back.
Yeah, that'd be pretty fun. I
Yeah,
think I only remember a couple of those ever. It was probably ending by the time I started watching and
I could see
remembering
that.
TV more. Yeah.
It's a bit before your time.
Yeah, a
Maybe.
few years.
Whereas I'm like, I could recite some of them where they decide to well, they like basketball. There's the peach baskets, and they're like playing basketball, and each time they play, they have to go and use a broom to poke the basketball out because they don't
Oh,
want to like cut
yes.
the bottom out of the baskets. He's like, let's cut the bottom out of the baskets, but I need these baskets back. Like fruit guy doesn't want to give him up.
I've heard of
You're like,
that before, yeah.
oh, the quaint beginnings. Anyway, I digress. It's my skill. I think Kelsey's gonna go first. I don't know. Um,
I
I'm
think
very
so.
excited.
Yeah, we had talked about doing urban legends, and I had said I was gonna try and look up maybe one of the more famous or popular ones in North America and see if I could find out kind of how it started because I find that kind of stuff interesting, you know?
Yes, origins.
Um, yes.
I
I did end up finding the origins of this, and that's why I ended up doing quite the deep dive on just one of them because it was pretty crazy. Um,
yeah. It's okay.
yeah,
I went opposite, so I think it'll be a fun episode because mine will be a more of a list and
yeah,
maybe a shallow dive.
yeah. Yeah, this one got pretty crazy when I was looking it up. It is one of the, I'd say one of the most popular ones, and that is, it's typically called The Babysitter and the Man Upstairs, or sometimes just The Sitter, or The Babysitter.
I could see that, even though
Yeah.
it usually probably gets referred to in a different from more the a quote from the story. Like I don't know, and the you know what I mean? Like the horror movies are like call in the house and stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
That's
part of
all.
this. Yeah.
Oh, I love it. That's such a
Yeah.
good.
That's
I
what,
was so
like, this
happy
is
you picked
the
that.
one of the most famous ones. And
Right? Yeah.
it dates back to the 1960s.
Oh.
We'll start going through kind of the different versions and variations of the urban legend, then we'll get into its origins. So
Ooh.
this urban legend typically centers around a teenage girl who is babysitting. Normally, it involves kids that have gone to bed already, so normally she is just kind of watching TV. Uh, Typically, there's phone calls involved, so the phone will ring, and it's either from a stalker or an unknown man who ends up calling And then every time she basically ends up hanging up on him, and then he'll call back, and it kind of goes back and forth. Like, there's numerous calls involved. Each time typically asking her to go and check on the children, or asking her if she has gone to check on the children lately.
Right. Not, what's your favorite scary movie?
Yeah.
One sec. There we go.
So typically the babysitter at this point is just pretty frightened and scared, ends up calling the police, who end up telling her that they'll be able to trace the call if he calls back. So they all end up waiting, and this unknown caller ends up calling again. She talks to him, hangs up, and then the police call her back immediately and tell her to get out of the house.
Nope.
Yeah.
Nope.
Typically they leave the house and end up meeting up with the police, who then explain that the calls are coming from inside the house, and that the man... Yeah.
It's coming from inside the house!
Yeah. Typically there's slightly different variations, so most of the time it involves that the man had actually killed the children upstairs and was trying to lure her upstairs by asking if she had checked on the children. And him obviously knowing that the kids are dead.
Somehow having killed them silently, too.
Yes. Right?
Alright.
So that's kind of the synopsis of, I guess, one of the more popular versions, but there are kind of slightly different versions. This is what I found on Wikipedia. Yeah, they kind of had a nice little list of some little other details that are in different versions.
Wikipedia, a good jumping off point.
I was like, it's good. So in some more modern versions, rather than be tormented by menacing phone calls, the babysitter is unnerved by what she assumes to be a hideous life-size statue of a clown in the corner of the room. I've never heard this version. Yeah, it's very creepy. Do not like. When the mother or father of the children, she is caring for calls home to check in on her and the kids, the babysitter asks if she can cover the clown statue with a blanket. And the parents inform the babysitter that they do not own a clown statue, and that the statue, and then it's revealed that the statue is really a murderer who attacks and kills the girl before she can escape. Which just
standing stock still in a clown costume
in the corner. Like, what did this person's house look like that you would assume they would have a fucking clown statue in the corner? Like, that's so creepy to me.
Did that make you think of the story when we did our Patreon, 2 Truths and a Lie? And the Pennywise animatronic that I talked about?
Yes! I didn't even think of that! Oh my God.
Forget why they had one, but it was like Spirit Halloween or something. I don't know. Maybe they lived in LA and somebody worked for the movies, but they were like, I definitely had it, and it seemed kind of haunted.
Yeah, I forgot about that. Wow.
Good times.
Other ones included a more child-friendly version where the caller turns out to be either one of the children or an older sibling who's decided to scare the babysitter as a prank, and they end up getting told off by the police. So basically in trouble with the police.
Well, Bart Simpson, he's always making prank calls to Moe's Tavern.
Other variations have the babysitter end up being killed as well as the kids. Another version yet where the babysitter manages to rescue the children and the prowler gets arrested by the police. However, in most of the versions, the children do not survive.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
That sucks, because, sometimes I'm like, doesn't they get the call in time? Don't they get the call in time?
Right? Yeah. Goes on saying, another version, while being taken away by the police, the prowler whispers or says out loud, "See you soon," to the babysitter.
Ugh.
Yeah, that'd be creepy. Don't like that. In some versions, when the prowler calls the babysitter, he just makes scary noises, like giggling or heavy breathing. Like giggling.
No, sorry.
So-
I can't wait to find out how loud that is editing. I can make my own sound effects, you guys. I don't know how to put
yeah,
sound effects in very well, but I'll
we'll
try and
make our
create my
own.
own.
Uh, Also in this version, while the operator says that the calls have been coming from the same house, the phone goes quiet, and when the operator asks if the babysitter is still there, all they get is the same scary noises, meaning that the babysitter has already been killed. Or I guess,
Ugh.
like, killed while they're on the phone. Um,
Uh,
Another one of the
great.
versions that I've never heard of, I guess, which would be very creepy. I would not like this. It said that the children are with the babysitter while watching television. The prowler starts phoning them, saying that he'll be with them in a decreasing amount of time. So, like, each time he says, like, he'll be
Mhm.
with them, it's getting a smaller and smaller amount. Then, after
10
they get the
minutes, 5
news,
minutes. Okay.
yeah. Then, after they get the news that the calls are coming from inside the house, they hear a door upstairs opening and the sound of footsteps heading towards the room where they are.
Eh.
Um, yeah, that'd be pretty creepy. This version was said to be found in Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark books.
Oh,
So that
yeah,
might be
okay.
one of the more popular versions because I know those are very popular books.
Yeah, like
Um,
Goosebumps. Yeah.
yeah.
I did read
Uh,
Goosebumps. And I
I don't
watched
think
Are
I
You
really
Afraid of
read
the
those.
Dark? Yeah.
I did watch Are You Afraid of the Dark?
Yeah.
I did watch the Goosebumps show. Didn't they do
Oh,
like a little
I
shows or
think so.
something? Um, I never really read the books.
He's a real
Yeah.
Stephen King for kids.
Yeah, R.L. Stein, isn't it?
Yeah,
He did
yeah.
Goosebumps,
This
yeah.
is this is crazy and this is haunted and it's like how they
Yeah.
make fun of Stephen King on like Family Guy and stuff where he like is in his editor's office and he'll be like, "This lamp is haunted." Whoa!
Yeah,
you're
I
like
remember that.
you're like, "Okay, well, yeah, sort of." But come on. Love me some Stephen King.
Yeah. Another version, uh yeah, this one's a little pretty different too. Years later, the babysitter is now an adult and has a family of her own. One evening, she and
Oh.
her husband go and have dinner out while a babysitter looks after the children. The evening is going well until a waiter approaches their table and says that there is a phone call for her. She then
Oh.
answers the phone and hears, "Did you check the children?"
Oh
And this is the
no.
ending that appears in some of the movie versions. Uh,
Okay, because it provides a nice twist like they like to do,
yeah,
where like the killer's not dead. Yeah.
yeah. Uh, and the last version that Wikipedia had said that the police informed one of the children that they found the prowler under the kid's bed holding a weapon. So that one,
Okay.
I guess neither of the kids or nobody's injured.
I mean, that's
So
fucked up, but yeah, you're right. Nobody
yeah,
would be. It's like that one where the one of the other classic urban legends where they think it's the dog licking their hand under the bed, but
hate that.
I
That came up
know.
in the thing, and I was like,
I think that's why they people make ones like that because they're like it's pretty outrageous, but
don't
also
like that
super
one.
creepy. Yeah.
I just got like a full body shiver. I hate that one. Like, oh.
I it kind of making it's making me laugh right now. I'm thinking like my dog can barely fit under our fucking bed. How can I
Yeah.
like he would just wiggle his fat ass in and out every morning. We had to block it off.
Yeah, there's a reason I have a bed that people can't go under. It's completely closed off
Mhm.
and there's drawers underneath it. There's a
That's
reason for
true.
that because ever
That would
since I was a kid, I was afraid
yeah.
of somebody being under my bed and like grabbing me um
I
or
know. I said to
anything.
Pat it might be a girl thing because I think we can all identify with that jumping into bed, the ankles.
Yes.
I
And
don't know if guys get that as much.
I don't think so as much, but it's one of the reasons why at 28 I still have a bed that you can't fit under.
Right. Oh man.
um Yeah, but for
Oh,
these, all the different versions and variations, I guess there are that are around now. Um, the basic story has been adapted many times over movies and TV shows, but when I tried to look up
oh yeah.
examples, it really only came up with a few.
Oh,
Saying
okay.
yeah, saying it's prevalent in the Halloween like series. I assume probably like the first one. Uh,
Oh, yeah,
like
because Michael doesn't talk.
yeah.
So there
So I'm
could
like,
be
it must
some
be
like
the breathing and sounds,
that's all I
not
can think of,
not
yeah.
giggling.
But I think we have one of the we definitely have another movie that has to do with this. We might
Yeah.
talk about it. I don't know. Yeah.
Well, there was, I think we talked about it already, When a Stranger Calls.
Yes, I
Um,
think we have that one.
Black Christmas. I haven't seen the one they're referring to. I've
Oh.
seen one of the remakes, and I don't remember this being part of the remakes, but um
Oh, so not the 1970s or
I
whatever
think
the
that's the
original
one that they're
is.
talking about, but that's not the one I've
Yeah.
seen. So and then the
Okay.
Scream
Yeah, there's a
movies, as we kind of said, they have like kind of the variation. They're like calling you repeatedly and being like, have you checked on this person? Not necessarily like babysitter scenario, but
that's right. It's the same
yeah.
trope. And I think Black
Yeah.
Christmas is noted as doing it first in a lot of like videos that Pat and I will watch on like what
Oh,
culture
okay.
and stuff because he loves to watch his horror
Okay.
movie
Yeah.
stuff.
Um So most of the things, at least according to Wikipedia, said that the origins of the babysitter urban legend dates back to the 1950s, specifically 1950, so 10 years before the urban legend took off, with the murder of Janett Christman, or Christman.
Oh,
Yeah.
the real
Um,
life murder. Okay.
yeah. Uh,
Not a movie.
no. And this is pretty crazy. So Janett was in born in March 21st. Born in March 21st. Born on March 21st, 1936. No wonder that whole sentence was underlined. Grammar.
I
Uh
always say, "You're a March baby."
yeah. She was born to parents Charles and Lula May Christman, which
Aw,
Lula May is a wonderful name. I love that.
very
Uh,
southern.
yes. She was the oldest of three daughters. She liked playing the piano and ended up singing in the church's choir. She
Aw.
was also just very involved in the church, and Janett was trusted kind of in the town, and she was described as pretty mature for her age, so she was deemed to be a pretty reliable babysitter for different families.
Oh, she's part of the babysitters club.
Yeah. And I should have looked up her name. It might be Janett, actually. It's two
Oh,
T's. Is that normally Janett or Janet? I know one T is Janet, but would two T, like, it's not TTE. Janett.
oh, that is a hard call then. Because yes, I was gonna say Janet, or
Yeah.
Jeanette. You could have it like Jean, and then usuallyEtte, regardless. But
Yeah. I'm just gonna say Janet then. Sorry.
also, we
Uh,
had a big boss at our company who was Janet, but it was spelled. It was like spelled Jeanette, but it was pronounced Janet. Like it gets very. I'm
yeah.
like, you tell me how it's pronounced, you Janet.
Yes.
Hard to
So
say.
on March 18th, 1950, 13-year-old Janet was dropped off by her father Charles to the home of Ed and Anne Romack at around 7:30 p.m.
Ed and Anne. I'm sorry. That's
Yeah.
only significant because sometimes when I used to drive home, I would catch sight of the same personalized plate this person would have. We'd be driving behind them and it would say Ed like dot Ann or whatever. And
Oh, weird.
at the time when my friend Caitlin was riding with me, like, ask her if she can confirm. We'd be like, "There's Ed and Ann." Wonder what they're up to. And like once I think
Oh,
we saw them and it was like an older gentleman or something, we're like, oh, yeah, it's an older couple. I'm sorry.
cute.
Yeah, now I'm picturing this cute older couple as
They're not very old, I don't think. No.
no. Oh yeah, a
No, they
13-year-old
wouldn't be very
daughter.
old. They're
Yeah.
um Ed and Anne are in their late 20s. Uh at this point.
Oh, is this Janet's parents?
No. No,
Oh, I'm
this is the
sorry.
couple she's babysitting for.
Oh, gotcha. Sorry.
Yeah. The Romax lived on a quiet, rural, like tree-lined street in Missouri. And the day was described as really cold. There was a mixture of snow and rain falling, like sleet.
Mm,
Um, so not a lot of people, I'd say, are out and about. The streets are normally pretty quiet when it's like that kind of weather. Most people want to stay home.
yeah.
So the Romax were family friends of Janet's and like parents, and they had asked her to look after their toddler, Gregory. Well, they decided to go out and play some cards with some of the other couples in the community. And Janett was excited because she wanted to earn some extra money to pay off this new outfit that I think her parents had bought it for her and she was going to work to pay them back. So she
Okay.
said, "Yeah, I'm gonna take this job, and then I'm like pay them back part for the outfit." And so she ended up saying yes. Some sources say that she was actually supposed to go to a party with her friends, and she like turned that down to take this babysitting gig to earn that money. Um,
Oh,
yeah,
okay. That's a twist of fate for sure.
yeah. It From what I read, it said before the couple left, Ed ended up showing Janett how to use the shotgun that they kept in front by the front door for security.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, they like showed her how to use it, showed her how to load it, everything. They told her if someone knocked on the door that she was supposed to turn the porch light on so that she could see the person and then only open the door if she knew the person and trusted them. So it
Yeah.
said that they assumed like she understood. She seemed to agree to all that. So the couple ended up leaving. At this point, the details of what happened next remain unknown. Around 10 p.m., it is known that Anne tried calling the house. She either got no answer or got a busy signal on the phone and assumed that Janett had fallen asleep. And at 10:30 p.m., police received a frantic phone call from a girl who was screaming for help. Her last words to them were, "Come quick," and then the line went dead. So
Oh,
that's the
no.
only two things that they know, basically, like, have any sort of timeline about is that Anne tried calling to check on them at about 10, wasn't able to reach her, but then 30 minutes later, she was calling the police.
Oh, okay. And
Yeah.
yeah, no witnesses left alive, I
No.
suppose.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh.
Unable to trace the call because it was either too short or they didn't have the capability at the time. It kind of went back and forth depending on the source. The officer monitoring the phone calls had no way to figure out who had called because all it basically said was like the screaming and then "come quick" and then it went dead. Like that's all they had.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
That's all she
They
had time to
were
say.
Yeah, they were forced to wait and hope that they had either received or were either going to receive another call with more information, like a location, what's happening, or they kind of hoped that it may have just been a prank phone call. So, yeah.
Okay. But I think they also usually now follow up on every like 911 call. Like,
Well, this one they
let
couldn't. It was the 1950s. They had no way to trace it and they
right.
didn't know who called. So,
Right, which is unfortunate to say the
mhm.
least.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Maybe it's like cases like these where they're extra careful now, and they're like, well, you
I think
never
so,
know what it
yeah.
is. Yeah.
So the Romax ended up returning home around 1 in the morning. So a long time later. The front porch light was on, and there was a sawhorse that was outside underneath a window at the side, like one of the windows at the side of the house.
Okay.
I
It's
think
a
it's kind of like
wooden
the, yeah,
contraption.
you'd put, I think they use it to like cut lumber, so you'd put lumber across to the sawhorses to help you cut, like it holds it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Pat used to have a table that was just like two of those with a
Yes,
piece of
a
wood on it.
100%. Every guy has that table.
And
My
they would
brother, my
DJ
dad.
on it. Yeah.
Oh, no. They're in like every garage.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
yeah. So that was sitting outside one of the windows at the near the side of the house, but you could see it from the front. So they noticed this when they were walking up, and it hadn't been there when they had left that night. Uh,
Oh.
yeah. So they went to unlock the door, and they realized it was already unlocked. So they thought maybe Janett had forgotten to lock it. And they thought that was kind of strange because they had told her like she had to keep the doors locked. But they thought, okay. And the couple went inside and ended up going to the living room, which kind of a horrendous scene awaited them. So, in the middle of the floor in the living room lay the body of Janett. It was surrounded just by a huge pool of blood.
Oh God.
Yeah. Her legs were spread apart and her skirt had been pulled up. She had severe head wounds and these tiny, small, circular puncture wounds to her face and like other parts of her body, as well as these scratches all over her face and arms. Um,
Oh.
yeah,
So at least some defensive wounds.
yeah. They said, yeah. I'll get to describing the scene, but they're like, yeah, she put up a tremendous fight. It was pretty
Oh.
extensive. Yeah. Um, there was a cord from an electric iron that was wrapped around her neck, and then a few feet away from her, the phone was off the hook, like laying. So I think it was supposed to be like a wall phone,
Mm-hmm.
or something, and it was either like on the floor, like hanging against the wall, or it could have been a table phone, and then it was on the ground. Either way, that was like fairly a few feet away from her.
Okay, yeah, so it obviously just
Yeah.
been used
Yeah.
recently.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So the couple also noticed that the window that was near the sawhorse had been broken and that glass was all over the carpet. The couple ended up rushing upstairs to check on their 3-year-old son, who was found unharmed and asleep in his bed.
Oh my God. Thank
Yeah,
God.
right. That's the only saving grace.
Crazy.
The couple called the police and ended up somehow that 2 different police stations responded to the call and arrived on the scene. It wasn't really explained why, just that one of the sources said that it was such a rural area that the people that normally are in charge of it didn't respond and then ended up responding later, and that's how 2 different teams ended up. But
Okay.
they both decide they're going to investigate. So they each precinct basically starts their own investigation and refuses to cooperate or share information with each other.
Oh my God, for reals?
Yes, it's stupid.
Fuck. That
Um,
is so pathetic. Like, get your head out of your arse.
yeah.
I've been reading actually this good book series from a Swedish author who, like, one of the members of the police force, the chief, actually, is like that incompetent asshole
Oh,
character with a bad comb over. And I'm like, I like this because it is realistic. Like, you got the characters you
yeah.
like, and then you got the ones where you're like, you're an asshole, or you're just phoning it in, and like, you don't
Mm-hmm.
care about your job anymore.
Yeah.
Ugh, all too real.
So getting to the scene, kind of other than Janet's body, um, So the more details that followed was that Janett, as I said, had clearly fought off her attacker. She had many defensive wounds, and they also found like blood smears and fingerprints throughout the living room and the kitchen. So like it had been an attack
Oh.
over like 2 different rooms.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
yeah. So there was some amount of footprints and blood samples, I guess, that were collected from the scene, but they're never really talked about again when they're trying to solve it. So I'm not sure what happened with those.
Inconclusive. No, I don't
Yeah.
know. Because
Um,
they're investigating it now. I'm sorry, is it the 70s?
no, 1950.
Oh, okay, okay. I
Yeah.
I thought maybe I was thinking someone's birthday was the 50s and now we're in the
No.
70s. But yeah, yeah, they're even more rudimentary than in their
Yeah.
investigations, unfortunately.
Yeah. One
Okay.
set of investigators, because keep in mind there's 2 different sets.
Right.
So one set of them determined that the broken window was done to throw them off track, and that
Sure.
it was broken using a garden hoe that the couple said that they kept inside the house. And because they kept
They
it inside
said
the
they kept it
house,
in the house? Oh,
yeah, I
okay.
don't know what for. That's a little strange.
Maybe in their sun porch? I don't know.
I don't know. But they said they kept it inside the house. So because it had been used to break the window, the killer would not have been able to break the window to get
Yeah.
inside the house because the object they used to break the window was inside the house already.
Yeah, unless
Um
someone's lying.
yeah, so one set of investigators were like, "Okay, they broke the window intentionally to throw us off." And then put the sawhorse there to throw us off. They determined that
Aha.
no one could have exited or entered through that broken window without severely cutting themselves because the glass around the window frame was like severely jagged and would have caused a lot of injuries if you tried to actually climb through it. And there was no blood or any sort of torn clothing found in that window area. It was just a random broken window that
Okay.
was like very staged.
Right. But
Um,
they didn't quite determine, like, oh, this person, the glass was broken from the outside going in. Like, because they
Well,
seem to
it
be
was
able to
like
do
all
that
over the
better now.
carpet, so it seemed like it was outside in because it was all over the
Yeah.
carpet inside the living room, but they
Oh,
could have
okay.
still gone outside and broken it like after the fact.
Yeah, that's
Um,
true. Yeah.
yeah. So Janett had been she had been bludgeoned. I never understood this phrasing, bludgeoned about the head. What is that?
Oh, it sounds
Yeah.
vaguely British. Beat
Yeah.
about the head. Or the way
Yeah.
they'll say, like, I was sat at the table instead of we will say I was sitting at the table.
Yeah. It's
Things
like
like
I don't
that.
know. It never flowed off the tongue. I guess.
Sometimes I'll be like, oh, that sounds cute or that sounds quaint.
Yeah.
But that's not the way I would say
No.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um as I said before, she had been sexually assaulted.
Oh.
And she was so it sounds like they're saying she was bludgeoned in the head, then sexually assaulted, and then she was strangled with that
Oh.
iron cord. Yeah.
Okay.
Um
Damn.
so they
That's
said with
like,
no sign of like a break-in, they believed that she had willingly let the perpetrator into the house. And as a result, this was likely someone that she knew and trusted since the porch light was on and she had been able to see who was at the door. And that's the scenario. They had told her, keep the door locked, and if somebody knocks, turn the light on, and if you know them and you trust them, then open the door. And the light was on and the door was
so.
unlocked. So they assume it was somebody she trusted because
Hmm.
yeah.
But they're disregarding the glass right now. They're saying, no, that's
Yeah.
not a sign of break-in.
Yeah, that's staged, they believe.
Hmm.
Um
I don't know what. That's interesting. I'm not sure
yeah.
what to think about that.
So, since the Romax had told Janett to keep all the doors locked and both the front door and the back door were found unlocked, they determined that the killer had entered through the front door and left out the back door.
Oh.
The killer had staged what was described as a robbery gone wrong but it was clear to police that it was not robbery motivated, and that the loaded shotgun at the front door remained untouched. So,
Yeah, that's weird.
yeah. Yeah, like nothing seemed to be taken at all. Nothing was moved. The only thing that was going on was like
Even the
Janett.
shotgun.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
basically just like Janett was the intended target.
God.
So that brings
Weird.
us to multiple of the sources mentioned there was another murder that was pretty similar that happened a few years earlier. It was 4 years earlier in the same community as the murder of Mary Lou Jenkins. She was murdered inside her home in 1946, 4 years earlier. She was 20, and she died less than a mile away from the Romax home. So very close.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She too was raped and then strangled with an extension cord. She was
Mm,
also found in a pool of her own blood in the living room on the living room floor. So like found in the same
okay.
area, same cause of death,
Yeah.
same neighborhood. Uh
Same MO. Or,
yeah.
yeah. Or you said that.
So neighbors had heard screams that night, but they believed that the noises came from the family's rabbits. Um
Oh
I'd
no, because
I'd rather
bunnies
that
sort of
horrifies
scream.
me. The bunny screams could sound like people screams. I'd rather not
I
get a bunny
had
than.
a bunny as a child, and I don't recall ever hearing anything like that. But
What the
I'm
fuck is
not
wrong with
saying
these bunnies?
it doesn't happen. You got those fainting goats. You got a lot of
You
weird
got
animals. Wait, is
yeah.
screaming goats real, or was that just from the latest Thor movie? Because that was fucking funny. Whoa!
Oh,
Whoa! Every time they were driving the ship or whatever, pulling.
it was so funny. I loved that.
Oh, if we do have a
Um,
movie minute, we did watch a movie last night, the Evil Dead one that just came
The
out.
Evil Dead Rise. I have not seen it yet. I want to see it. No spoilers.
Yes.
No spoilers, please.
No spoilers, just opinion, I guess. I don't know. It
Oh,
was.
okay.
I mean, yeah, I thought it was pretty good. I got
Yeah,
no
apparently it's
complaints.
the highest grossing of the Evil Dead franchise to date. So people must really like it.
Wow.
Yeah. hmm
Okay.
I've seen some stuff online, some stills and little like
Yeah.
snippets, and I was like, ooh, that does look really actually like creepy. Some of the other ones are more like, I don't know, it's very like a funny series, I guess. With like the horror
Yes.
that's going on. It
Yes.
does have a lot of humor in it.
Kind of campy. Yeah.
Yeah, and I feel like this one is just like straight, like just creepy from everything I've seen.
Yeah. More. What's the other Sam Raimi one? Like, As Above, So Below, or
Yeah,
that other one. I would say it's more like those ones, a little darker.
yeah, nice.
That other one he did.
I can't remember.
I know. I'm like, what the fuck?
I know
I'll
I've
think of
seen it, but I can't remember it.
it. I'll,
Yeah.
I'll, I'll figure it out. Hang on. But go ahead. It's fine.
Yeah, so screaming rabbits. Nobody called the cops, I guess. Uh Mary Lou's murder had also rocked the community during the time it happened, and police were put under enormous pressure to try and solve the case. So, just weeks
Okay.
after Mary Lou's murder, a gentleman named Floyd Cochran, he ended up shooting his wife, May, in the shoulder and the neck with a shotgun. And then he had attempted to commit suicide but failed.
Oh.
Police brought
With a
him.
shotgun?
Yeah.
Ooh.
I'm not sure
Messy.
how like police located him, but they brought him in for evaluation and he ended up being committed to a hospital due to this suicide attempt. And it
Okay.
was only after they committed him, and I assume were searching his house, that they found his wife May that had been shot and was like dead inside the house still.
Okay,
Um
yeah.
Despite there being no connections or evidence, Floyd was then interrogated about Mary Lou's murder that had occurred just weeks earlier.
Okay.
It's important to mention that Floyd was black and Mary Lou was white. And it's it's 1946. So you can
Oh,
imagine how this went.
as a
Um,
couple. Okay.
yeah,
By the,
like
yes. Sorry, you're right.
yeah,
Go
like
ahead.
Floyd had, as far as I know, like probably never even met Mary Lou. Like I don't know how they were just like, you killed your wife, now we're gonna assume you killed and like raped this other woman like weeks ago.
Oh, okay.
Like I don't
Yeah,
know how
I
they're
may
just
have
jumping to that.
lost the plot a bit on that too. Like
Yeah.
what? That's crazy. But I do think
Um
I know what movie we were trying to think of.
which one?
Probably Drag Me to Hell. He
Oh,
because I
yeah,
think that's
probably.
the one I was probably trying to think of. And then he also did that Don't Breathe one, which is also kind of pretty creepy.
Yeah.
Because they like try and break into that blind guy's house or something, and like,
Yeah. I saw the first one. I didn't see the second one.
right, yeah, there's a second
Yeah.
one. Yeah, anyway, he does pretty creepy movies.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, carry
um
on.
yeah, so Floyd, um he ended up being interrogated for 2 days like straight, without a lawyer
Oh.
present. And during this time, as I said, like the community was in shock about Mary Lou's death. And they were looking for somebody to blame, and Floyd was now being interrogated by the police. So this kind of mob formed outside while Floyd was being interrogated, and they wanted to lynch Floyd and kill him.
Oh. Oh
Um,
no.
yeah. It said that his
Not
only
good.
connection to Mary Lou was that he was assigned to be her street's like garbage man, like garbage collector.
Oh god.
That's fucking it. So, after hours and hours of questions, Floyd supposedly confessed, but he later recanted and said that he had made this confession under police threat and the mob threat, like outside waiting for him. And he had said that he did it, even though he didn't.
And
Um,
did you say, because if he's her garbage man, did he find her body? Or did you say that? I'm sorry.
no, I don't know how they found her body. It was just in her house.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sometimes they find it in the, when the garbage gets picked up or whatever.
Oh no, her body was found like in her living room.
Okay, right, right,
Yeah.
right. Sorry. Yeah. Okay.
So it's also important to mention that Floyd had significant mental and intellectual challenges. Uh,
Hmm.
and these like mental challenges were so severe that he had actually been rejected from the draft during World War II. You can imagine how desperately they probably wanted people during World War II.
Hey,
And
so was Stephen King, right? He was rejected from one of those drafts. Probably not World
yeah.
War II, because he's not quite that.
Yeah.
I think it was Vietnam or something, but they were like, you're flat footed and nearsighted, and I don't
Yeah.
know, something else that I probably have, because I am both of those
Yeah.
things. That's
Uh
funny.
yeah. So
Sort of.
we jump to May 7th, 1946. Floyd ends up pleading guilty to murdering his wife, and he's sentenced to 15 years in prison. And then a few weeks later, he stands trial in front of an all-white jury and a white judge, on trial for Mary Lou's murder. No one ends up believing his alibi or him saying that he had recanted his confession for Mary Lou's murder, like he had made it under duress. So he ends up getting found guilty and sentenced to death. And Floyd Cochran was executed September 26, 1947, after being led blindfolded into a gas chamber, which is fucking horrific. I hate gas
Oh.
chambers. Yeah.
And that was Floyd?
Yeah. So, despite Floyd's
Oh.
imprisonment, the sexual assaults and peeping incidents continued in this community. And there was multiple other black men that were coerced into these like wrongful confessions and ended up being charged for different rapes. But yeah. So this is
Oh my
all that's
God.
like leading up. So we go back to Janett's murder. So that's kind of what the community is going up against. And then Janett
Wait,
gets
I'm still trying
murdered.
to get a hold of that. Okay, fine.
That's just background. Doesn't matter. So yeah, now we
Okay.
add like this murder, 13-year-old Janett, similar
Mm-hmm.
circumstances to Mary Lou. Police
Mm.
ended up questioning kind of like the already killed Floyd. Like he's already been put to death by this point, like years ago. And this happens again. So they start questioning, is Floyd the one that did it? And they began to believe that maybe Janett and Mary Lou were killed by the same person. And
Oh.
it's kind of like an interesting thought. We don't really know like follow up with that too much. For Janett's case, police ended up catching a break when one of Janett's friends told them that they were pretty sure they knew who killed her. And this gentleman's name was
What?
Robert Mueller. He's
Okay.
pretty gross. I do not like him. Uh,
What did
Robert
he have to
Mueller.
say?
Robert's gross. He's gross. He was an acquaintance of both Janett and the Romack family. He
Okay.
had known Ed Romack since high school, and he was also a former Air Corps officer. Air
Oh.
Corps officer in World War II.
Those Air Army
Um,
men.
yeah. And
Oh, we just
Robert
scored. He's
also,
gonna sing again.
uh,
No, it's fine.
um, Robert had also known Mary Lou from high school, so he had known both the victims. Mary Lou he had gone to high school
Oh.
with, and then Janett, he knew because he knew Janett's parents and the Romack family.
Right, because there were a few years between them, if I recall, between the
Yeah.
deaths.
Mm.
Ugh.
There's 4 years between the deaths.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Uh,
I thought it was longer.
no. Mueller at at the time was 27 in 1950. He was 27. He was married and working as a tailor. But this
Oh,
didn't
Tinker
stop
Tailor Soldier
him.
Spy. Sorry.
The fact that he was married didn't stop him or even make him attempt to keep it a secret that he had a big crush on 13-year-old Janett. Like a fucking.
No.
Yeah. Janett.
I mean, great. So now we can do something about it, but gross.
Yeah. Um, yeah, he's 27. She's 13. Like, get out of here.
I
And
mean,
Janett,
just,
like, he
yeah.
had kids of his own because Janett had even babysat for him a few times.
Yeah,
Uh,
he's a full on adult, and
yeah.
she's barely not a child.
So, while she may have been even, like, slightly flattered by any of his interest or whatever, her
I
friend
mean,
said
sure.
that, yeah, her friend said that she had made it clear to him that she considered him a friend and nothing more.
You didn't even have to, but yeah.
Right? Yeah, shouldn't have to.
You're an
Robert,
adult.
yeah,
This should be a
Robert
safe.
Mueller had made suggestive comments about Janett to anyone basically who would listen, including Anne Romack. He commented on her figure and would often embarrass her by saying that she was well developed for her age. Gross.
No. Yeah, I feel like looking back, I got more of those comments that I ever realized at the time I was that age.
Yes, so did I.
Where, well, at the
Yeah.
time, you're almost just like, "Ugh, I'm 13." You're like, I want to look 16. But then looking
Mm-hmm.
back, you're like, they're saying that because you had big tits. And you're like, yeah,
Yeah.
that's gross.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah.
Yeah, me and my best friend jumping from like what basically kind of like they call them like training bras or like sports bras to
Mm-hmm.
like regular bras within 6 months in I think grade 5.
Underwires.
Yeah, like grade 5. And
Yeah. I probably
like
should have gone like straight to some of those bras because yeah, it was like, yeah, sometimes it's just like, but bam, all of a sudden you have to deal with this shit you've never had to deal with
yeah.
before. And give it support.
Yeah. Yeah, so Anne Romack even said that Mueller had told her about fantasies of defiling young virgins. Blech. So
Oh
gross.
no,
Yeah.
sir. Simply no.
I found a bunch of the next information from the midwestcrimefiles.com. This is kept this here because this is the only source I read that said this. um and that was that Anne Romack stated that on the day before Janett's murder, Robert was helping her hem a dress as he had worked as a tailor. He was in the sewing room where the iron was used to strangle Janett was kept.
Okay.
This was something that a random intruder to the house may have had a hard time finding in the home.
Yeah.
But he was there like the day before. Anne said Mueller tried to grope her breasts that day and made her very uncomfortable. And
Ugh.
yeah, and described Mueller as a man who, quote, doesn't use words, he uses his hands. So gross. I hate that.
Okay, so he's literally Chester the fucking molester. They just
Yes,
didn't,
100%.
yeah, really maybe have the whole vocabulary for that at the time. Or
Yeah, the 1950s.
I guess
Um,
things were let slide sometimes.
yeah, unfortunately.
I was listening
It's
to a
all
history podcast the other day, and they just kept saying, "Sometimes we're going to just say swallow the ick. It's history."
yeah,
Which I was like, I appreciate because I don't want someone to necessarily like blah 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 of the politics of the time when like now
yeah,
what's right and wrong. And so I was just like, fair enough.
yeah.
And they get back to the story.
They also said because he was a tailor, Mueller also carried a mechanical pencil in his front pocket.
I hate
He,
those, but okay.
yeah, I used to use them like exclusively because I hate sharpening pencils. I have bad luck; they break
Oh,
like every 5 minutes for me. So,
I
um,
guess I put the mechanical pencils out too far and then it breaks immediately
oh,
because it snaps off and I'm like, I don't get it. I just
oh.
get all mad.
So the morning of Janet's murder, Robert Mueller called Janett and asked her to babysit for his children that night. He and his wife were going to be attending the same card game that Mr. and Mrs. Romack were attending. She ended up
Oh.
declining, explaining that she was already committed to the Romack family. So this is how he knew where she was going to be that night. This is all according to that
Oh.
the midwestcrimefiles.com because I didn't find this information anywhere else.
Yeah, I feel like this case is not that well known for
Yeah.
all that it's, recreated or whatever.
To make
Interesting.
matters worse, Mueller left the card game apparently for about an hour around 10 p.m. the night of the murder, stating that he had to go tend to a sick child. Upon
Oh no.
investigation, detectives determined Mueller never went back to his home that night where his children were until he returned home with his wife.
No, because he did it. He killed
Yeah.
her.
Ed Romack reported that the morning after the murder, Robert Mueller called him and asked him if he needed help cleaning up the house after the horrific crime. The only issue with this was that the crime had not been publicly reported yet, so it was
Wait.
unclear how Mueller even knew about the murder.
No.
Yeah,
He called the
he
who?
called the he called Ed Romack and was like, "Hey, do you need help cleaning up your bloody living room?" And like nobody knew
Oh,
about the crime yet.
the victim's dad. No.
No,
The
the
where the babysitter
family.
was killed, that dad.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Yes, yes. Oh my god.
Um,
He's so dumb.
Mueller told Ed Romack that he believed the killer did not enter through the window because it would have made too much noise. He went on to say that the window was probably a ploy by the killer to throw investigators off. He said that he thought it would be much easier for the killer to just knock on the door and say that Ed had sent him to get poker chips. And
Oh
if
god.
Robert Mueller was
Wow.
speaking of himself, this probably would have been plausible to young Janett. like why he was there.
It
Because
was
he's
the
at the card
50s.
game, and yeah, Ed sent me back to get some more poker chips.
Fuck yeah, they'd send kids to go to the
Yeah.
store to get cigarettes for them at some
Yeah.
point in time, probably at this point in time, because they would be like, "Oh, here, I know you, Jimmy. It's for your dad. Sure."
Yeah, get in
Like,
my car. My dad says you're picking me up.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. I'll molest you on the way. Okay, no, never mind. But yeah, it was fucking different. We have to
Yeah.
admit.
So once police heard about his obsession with Janett, they questioned Mueller with ended up being without a warrant. Like they just kind of picked him up, and
Mm.
they ended up after questioning him asked him to take a lie detector test, which he agreed to take, and it said that he passed it with flying colors, which is wild.
Okay.
But Mueller knew that knew the Romax house. He knew that Janett would be alone that night. However, no evidence could actually physically put him at the scene. And with no proof or witnesses, their one and only suspect, because of the lie detector test, was now eliminated.
Which
Um,
isn't fucking
yeah,
evidence that's concrete either. A lie
exactly.
detector test. So that's stupid.
Yeah. However, testing did determine that we talked about it. The mechanical pencil he carried was in fact consistent with the small, tiny, circular puncture marks found on Janett's body, which is
Ew!
disgusting.
He poked her with a pencil? Yeah, what the
Yeah,
fuck?
like the graphite or whatever in it just poked her. I can't remember what's that
Ew!
called. They did an episode about crimes and consequences. They did a whole episode about a guy that was obsessed with like just poking people with sharp things. It's like his
Oh,
thing. It's got a
gross.
specific name. I can't remember it. It starts
It
with a
must be
P.
post mortem, because how else can you just let people
Mm,
poke at you like an apple
yeah.
skin? Because I did do weird things to apple skins before.
Yeah,
But
because then make a little like smiley face and then it gets all bruised and you're like, oh, it looks so sad.
yeah, I had a habit of like, oh, I don't know, kind of like putting out pieces with slicing them out with my fingernail or
Yeah.
the
I did that.
fork. Is
Yeah.
that okay? Okay. I don't know if that's normal. What do I know?
I did it. I would make like a kind of make like a jack-o'-lantern or something out of an apple. I almost said out of a potato. It's not a potato. It's an
No, they were
apple.
turnips originally.
Yeah.
That's right.
Um yeah, so they did tie that back to him, but they couldn't really do anything about it. It's unclear if Mueller's footprints or fingerprints were ever compared to those that they said they collected from the scene. Like I said,
Wow.
it didn't really get those mentioned again. A grand jury was convened, but the jury felt that there was insufficient evidence to charge Robert Mueller with Janett's murder, and thus he never
Damn.
was. While some people believe that Mueller was the killer, another likely suspect emerged much later. A week or so before Janett was murdered, a friend of hers, Lois Terry, had been babysitting in the same area when a man had knocked on the front door. She too had peeked outside and saw this strange guy standing there. Lois said she didn't know what it was about him, but something about his appearance made her feel uneasy and she had refused to open the door for him.
Okay. Good job,
Years,
girl.
yeah, trust your instinct always.
Just your gut.
Years later, when Lois grew up, she had a family of her own. She ended up running into a friend from her old neighborhood, and this woman introduced her to her husband. And Lois suddenly found herself face to face with this creepy man who had knocked on her door all those years ago.
What?
Though she could not prove it, her gut told her it was the same man, as his face had been burned into her memory from that day. Had he been the one to have killed Janett and would have done the same. What? Oh, he possibly would have been the one to kill Janett, and he may have even tried to be doing the same thing to her had she actually opened the door that night. And that was just like a couple weeks before Janett was killed. Um, Despite the time that had passed at this point, Lois still felt like this menacing evil, she said, that surrounded him. Just like an aura of just like, oh, bad. Bad juju.
Ew. Yeah.
But files from the original investigation in 1950 revealed that bloodhounds had led police from the Romax house too close to where it's reported that this creepy guy lived before they ended up losing the scent. And this guy, it said that he lived less than a mile from the Romac family, but for some unknown reason, this new suspect and lead was never pursued, and as a result, the name of this man is not known today. Like, they don't know who this guy is, and he's the only other, like, plausible suspect.
Okay, so the public doesn't know.
No, nobody knows. Like, the investigators might not even know. Like, it's garbage.
Oh,
yeah.
That's so weird.
Yeah.
Crazy.
So that
It's like
brings
a
us to the...
ghost.
Yeah. Though the investigation into Janett's death officially remains open, the case has been cold for decades and sits unsolved still 70 years later. Yeah. Janett Christman was buried 3 days after her death on what would have been her 14th birthday, which breaks my heart. It also breaks my heart that she was buried wearing the outfit that she had taken the babysitting job to pay back her parents for. They said it was like an
You
Easter
said that
outfit she bought.
you wanted to pay for it. Yeah, I was like, oh, I hate that when they're like, oh, I wasn't even supposed to go out that night, or I only did that because of this. Yeah. It was a means to an end, but it was her end, unfortunately.
And then despite what the urban legend that like this murder like became, there is no evidence that the killer ever called Janett on the phone. Like, we don't know that really where that came from, other than she had called the police.
Okay, so that didn't happen in this case.
As far as we know, yeah.
Right, we don't have cell phone records.
Yeah. My last is kind of like what happened to everybody after this point. Also from the Midwest crimefiles.com, saying Robert Mueller later sued the investigators for defamation and a violation of civil rights, seeking more than $300,000 in compensation.
Oh, okay, guy.
He was suing them. He was suing them basically because they didn't have a warrant when they were interrogating him. And police came back and said, quote, "We didn't get a warrant because of the public notoriety and embarrassment that may have resulted."
All right.
Yeah. Like,
I mean,
so
sometimes they're just trying to be nice, bud.
Yeah. He ended up losing this lawsuit, and afterwards he relocated with his family to the West Coast. Robert Mueller was never charged with the murder of Janett Christman, and detectives refused to admit that they likely convicted the wrong man in the case of the murder of Mary Lou Jenkins. It's quite possible Robert Mueller killed them both. Or this other guy was involved, something. We just don't know. Robert Mueller died in 2006 in California at the age of 83.
Fuck him.
Yeah. The Romac family also ended up moving away, unable to continue their lives in the shadow of such a tragedy. Anne Romac died in 1980 and Ed died in 2016. Ed's obituary was 4 children.
That's
Gregory.
quite a gap.
Yeah, right? I thought that too. That's 36 years.
And sorry, Anne went first?
Yeah. Anne died in 1980 and Ed died in 2016. I don't know.
Yeah, that's unusual.
Yeah. Ed's obituary lists 4 children. Gregory survives and it said lives in Alaska.
Oh.
Yeah. Janett was buried on her 14th birthday wearing the burgundy suit she had bought for Easter.
No, we know that. You don't have to stick the knife in again.
Sorry. I forgot that I had that in this separate, like, that was just quoted from the one site.
Fuck. I'll have to
Janet's
look at
family.
pictures of her. Yeah, she
Yeah,
sounds
there's
amazing.
a couple on the drive. Um,
Okay, I'll have a
yeah.
look.
Janet's family remained in Columbia. That was like the community, Columbia, Missouri. Where her
Oh,
father,
okay.
yeah, not in Columbia.
Weird.
Um, her family remained in Columbia, where her father died in 1974 and her mother in 2009. And Janet's sisters like survived as well. That's all like the thing said. Yeah, that was like the
Wow.
updates that I know. But yeah, it kind of shocked me when I was looking up the urban legend, and then everything kept saying, "Oh yeah," and it's attributed back to like Janet's murder. Janet's murder. Every single thing I looked at was like it's based on Janet's murder, and then it was like, and this is
Wow.
unsolved, and it's kind of crazy. And then the one
Crazy.
source brought in like Mary Lou Jenkins and like all this other stuff. I was like, that's actually pretty wild. I don't really
Yeah.
quite understand how like this murder evolved into that urban legend really about like the phone
Yeah.
calls and
Who
stuff like
knows?
that.
Just a
But
spark of an idea or something.
yeah, like a
But like
cautionary
that's so
tale.
sad. It should be
Yeah.
solved. Why isn't it one that's getting the spotlight like some, podcasts that
Yeah.
are able to do a whole series or whatever. They do a
Right?
deep dive. Yeah, they're like, okay, let's investigate this old murder and
Yeah.
try and solve it or
It's
whatever.
yeah, it
Yeah.
was kind of crazy when I was looking it up. I was like, "Oh, that's kind of like an interesting urban legend." I was like, "I get to talk about true crime even on a paranormal episode." What? Happy.
That's funny. I think wait, do I get more excited? Yeah, it's kind of fun when they blend, but I was like, I think I get more
Yeah.
excited if it's paranormal. Wait, what did you just say? Paranormal, you get to true crime. No, I'm fucked up.
Yeah, if it's paranormal and I get to talk about true crime.
I'm just gonna shut up right now. Yeah, it's fun when they blend. That is for sure.
Yeah. I was
I
just
don't know
like,
which I
this
like
is
more.
yeah, I go back and forth. It depends like what our topic is. But
Yeah, true crime
yeah.
can be heavy to like listen to all the time because I listen to a lot of podcasts at work. And
Yeah.
so sometimes diving into it can be also a bit heavy, but it's
Yes.
very, very interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, this one I was really shocked to learn that it was like how old that urban legend was, and then like
Yeah.
that this Kate, because that said the urban legend started around the 1960s, and like this happened in 1950, and then you have Mary Lou's murder 4 years earlier.
Yeah.
Like,
I will say I was Googling things by like urban legends of the 21st century or whatever. And
mm.
there was a book called that or something. So it just kept, I was like, fuck, that's just going to keep
I
coming up
hate that.
now. God
Yes.
damn it.
I hate that when you're trying to look at something very specific, but I've run into that. There'll be a book, uh
Yeah.
there'll be a podcast named that, and you're like, what the fuck?
It was just the way I worded it. I was like, okay, I can find.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't worry. I have some modern urban legends of today that I think you guys are gonna like. They're the kind
Ooh.
of things that I like when I hear them on
Yeah.
podcasts.
Think
I'm
we
always like,
touched on them.
click.
I touched on a few of them we've done before. I
From
did some
when?
in the like Death Omens episode. I talked about I can't remember what
Mm,
country it is.
yeah,
They didn't
yeah.
use like fans on when you sleep because the fan will like chop up your fingers or something.
Right, right,
And
right. Because that's a definite modern.
yeah,
I don't know. I want to say like superstition, but yeah, like that's a modern belief. I get you. You're right. You're
yeah.
right.
It's like we've touched on them a little bit, but we'll dive into some more when we come back.
Yes. I have a little bit of a themey theme, so we'll see you after the break.
Hello, Spooklings.
I'm Jason,
And I'm Kathy.
and we're the hosts of the weekly podcast, All Hallows Eve Podcast.
We are a husband and wife duo with a passion for anything spooky, macabre, and true crime, sprinkled with our own twist of comedy.
We explore topics such as the history of Halloween, the Butcher of Plainfield, Hocus Pocus 2, urban legends, superstitions, and more.
So come join us as we go down the rabbit hole that is All Hallows Eve Podcast.
Listen and follow us at allhallowsevepodcast.com or your favorite podcast provider.
Stay spooky, my friends.
Welcome back. Mine is a little bit of a listicle. Urban Legends of the 20th, 21st Century, I've titled it, and its theme is a little bit dark and a little bit Disney, so.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I like this kind of stuff.
A little bit dark and a little bit Disney. Okay. I just watched I think Bailey Sarian had just done a video and it was about Disney, and she kind of
Yes.
talked about some of the Disney movies and the stories behind them.
Oh my god.
It was wild.
Okay, because I kind of, have this like secret love for that kind of stuff. Even though I'm
Let's
not
just
much of like
say-
a let's go to Disney all the time nerd, I'm like, oh my god. If all the movies tied together, it's like so fascinating.
Oh no, this was like the one about Little Red Riding Hood was bonkers.
Wait, because there's like a Disney version of that?
Well, there's like they did. I guess it's like kind of a Disney story. They've done it in like, I guess a little like blurbs. There hasn't been, I think, a
Okay.
movie, but
Yeah.
the original story of it dates back like so long ago, and there's so many
Oh,
weird
hell yeah.
versions.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, she
I could
even
see
talked
that.
about like a French version that basically involves the wolf is like masquerading as the grandma, but then is making Little Red Riding Hood basically take off all of her clothes, saying like, you don't need this, and like throw it in the fire, and then she's basically naked before her grandmother, and it's like, you just, and Bailey was so funny. She's like, yeah, you just put on like My Milkshake Brings All the Boys to Yard and do a striptease for your grandma. And the moral,
is that the
it was
treasure
so-
he wants?
it was so weird. And then it was like, yeah, and the moral of basically all of the versions of Little Red Riding Hood was don't be a slut. It was basically what it boiled
No!
down to. It was like, oh my god.
So slut shamey.
But it was back in like the 1700s or in 1600s or some shit that Little Red Riding Hood started. It was like, oh my god.
Oh.
It was so funny yeah.
But I will say, to give an unsolicited shout out to a podcast that I probably have mentioned before that I just listened to recently, that's called Spill the Mead. They do, okay, I was gonna say, they do a little bit of history, and the one that I really like that they do that I wish I had thought of in some ways. It's kind of like people will do like listener stories once a month for the different paranormal and true crime podcasts. Well, they'll do one that's just called like folk tales. And I'm like, oh my god, when we do lore and legends and I start reading some of the folk tales, like, yeah, they are some of the craziest, most batshit
weird
things. Yes, so like say once a month or whatever, they'll do one. It's all folk tales. I don't know. Yeah, I was listening to some earlier and it was just like, and the what now? This makes no sense. It's amazing.
Yeah, some of
like,
them
we've
do
done
make
some.
no sense.
Yeah. I think you had pretty crazy ones in some of the last folk tales, but I can't remember if that was Scandinavian or one of the other ones where there was fish because there was a pike involved.
Yeah.
It was like, oh, a pike. Just random shit.
Yeah, normally I read a lot of those and then I go, that's too weird. I didn't even really understand that one. I was like, how am I going to be able to share this story if I didn't even at least partially understand what I was reading?
I don't know what the damn morals are half the time.
Yeah.
Okay, so my first part is probably the little bit dark part, we'll say.
Okay.
But I will say, if anybody has a title of a podcast that's like Dark Side of Disney, I'm like, immediately, yes, I'm going to listen to it. So both my themes fit here. A fun fact that I came across upon my research to start with is that this was like a little urban legend that arose from the depths of the Wikipedia about it was on the Annabelle doll page,
Okay.
I guess. Because somebody was like, "Oh, did you hear about that?" And it was like that Annabelle escapes, and everybody was like, "Oh my god, she escaped!" And then it turned out it was an April Fool's joke.
Oh, yes. I do remember hearing about that. Hmm.
Okay, I
Yeah.
hadn't. I was
Oh,
like,
you
"That's
hadn't?
fun." I
Oh,
don't
yeah.
think so. I don't know. The pandemic wiped everything out from my mind. Was it before then? Who knows?
Yeah, I don't even know when it was from.
Like, I thought that was great though. It's just like, oh my
Yeah.
god. I mean, we will believe basically anything we read on Wikipedia. No.
Yeah.
I try to double check it. Couple from around America from a short list I found. There's a place called Dudleytown, which is a quote unquote lost town in Connecticut that's allegedly a kind of dark vortex, if you will. Um,
Vortex.
I mean, sounds sexy. No. But if you steal any artifact from here, you will be definitely cursed as fuck. So that's the whole thing with this place. But yeah, it was on one list, and then I looked up another article about it, and it was like a ghost town that was abandoned, and those are always fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, like they're just kind of creepy on their own. And all that remains are some cellar holes and some stone foundations, and apparently rumors of ghosts, demons, and curses. So I don't know. It could be a creepy place that maybe there's
Yeah.
more to look into. I don't know. Oh, they have a you enter it on Dark Entry Road, which sounds really creepy. Oh, yeah, like there was a whole history. All I kind of wrote from that was it was named after a Gideon Dudley who arrived in 1747 and was followed by his two brothers and supposedly brought the curse to the area, we'll say.
Oh, okay.
As the story goes. But then you like read more, and then the article was like the curse dates back to the 1500s in England when Edmund Dudley was beheaded for plotting to overthrow King Henry VIII. Like,
Jeez.
it
Okay.
went all the way back to England. Like, and then they kind of went on to say that like the lineage of that didn't really add up because it wasn't really those Dudleys that came to like North America. And I was like,
Nice.
oh,
Love that.
okay. It's like, all right. Couple other cursed places like this I ran across in the list. The Petrified Forest in the US. I think this was Utah, maybe. It's in like that area. And they said here you might see orbs, shadows, and voices, and it's also very cursed, and you're not supposed to take any souvenirs from here. But I don't know if that's like Native American kind of curses and
Mm.
stuff, because yeah, it seems like a really ancient area. Petrified Forest. If you Google Rainbow Forest, you see really cool pictures of how the wood does look really colorful. It's like you'll see like a log. I don't have any pictures on the drive because I'm clearly lacking and unqualified as a person. But the end of the like log would be cut off, and then it'd be like kind of rainbow, almost as if it like got dipped in an
Wow.
oil spill or something. Like it's kind of weird. It's interesting.
Huh.
I know. And this is just apparently another cursed area. I think it's one of those places that they're probably like, ooh, don't take too much from here because it's creepy. We don't know what's going to go on.
Yeah.
But they have something called the Dark Forest Association that patrols the grounds. That's fun.
The Dark Forest.
Right?
What a name. I kind of love that.
Do you think that it was Dwight Schrute who made that up to patrol the areas around the beet farm, maybe?
Yeah.
Because he was part of some night group that was like these...
Oh,
they were
yeah.
patrolling. But so yeah, there's that, and there was also a place I ran across called the Seven Gates of Hell in Pennsylvania, where it's not like a place, I guess, because at first I was like, is this just in a prison? It seemed like.
Yeah, I ran across this one when I was looking places.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, go through 7 gates, go straight to jail. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. Right?
You're cursed.
You're cursed. Yeah, it's interesting. Okay, to summarize, I think this was Wikipedia. The 7 Gates of Hell is a modern urban legend regarding locations in York County, Pennsylvania. 2 versions of the legend exist, one involving a burnt insane asylum and the other an eccentric doctor. Both agree that there are 7 gates in a wooded area of Hellam Township, Pennsylvania, and that anyone who passes through all 7 goes straight to hell. The location in question never housed an institution. The aforementioned doctor only constructed 1 gate to keep out trespassers. Seems
Okay,
reasonable. Despite the popularity of this as a tourist destination, the property is privately held. Visitors may be charged with trespassing as a result.
Sounds fun.
End quote. Other than that, to cap off my dark portion, I have a shallow dive, shallow for me, of a a thing I heard about on another podcast, I believe originally, which was a game that was called Polybius.
Polybius? The fuck?
Damn it, this was one thing I could have put pictures on for, because there was pictures of the arcade game face. The Marquee, as I've learned it's called. Yeah, it was an arcade game. Sort of. Quote, fictitious 1981 arcade game that is part of an urban legend. The legend describes the game as a part of a government-run, crowdsourced psychology experiment based in Portland, Oregon. Because Portland's weird.
Yeah.
I think that was just from the Wikipedia. If that sums it up for you any. It's so weird, I know. If I hadn't already heard about it somewhere, I'd be like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was like apparently this like arcade game. I don't know. I almost picture like a pinball game every time I say arcade game, but it's similar, right? You gotta have the screen and then your like fucking joysticks or whatever. But this game supposedly produced intense psychoactive and addictive effects in the player. So that wasn't good. You might like this part. The few machines they had were rumored to be visited frequently by men in black to data mine the machines.
I do like. Of course they were.
I immediately picture all the people from the Fringe with their bald heads and no eyebrows.
Observers.
Yeah, their little hats. I don't know if they're fedoras, but they're old-fashioned hats.
Yeah.
That'd
be pretty good. Yeah.
Black. Yeah, it's so weird. They don't get mentioned in a lot of different things other than aliens.
Yeah.
I guess. No, this is how Wikipedia summed it up. 1981, an arcade game in Portland, Oregon area was the scene of countless gamers coming down with migraines, heart attacks, addictions, seizures, strokes, and even amnesia, all due to one game cabinet, end quote.
Oh, God.
It's weird, I know. As this one article author wrote, because I read the Wikipedia and I don't know, several other articles that I will note, of course, but they pointed out that it seems almost quaint to think of these kind of notions nowadays with the rather intense algorithms and hyper targeted platforms that we deal with on a day-to-day basis. And I was like, I mean, like that's in my words too, because it's like, yeah, we have all these things that you look at one ad and then you're seeing it, like you can be
Oh
playing a
God,
game and you
yes.
see it everywhere. Or they talked about it in one show I was listening to, and like, say you and I were talking about a rug that you wanted to get, and then so you look at it on your phone, but you're talking to me about it, and you think, well, did the phone listen to me if I get an ad for it? But it's like, no, you're in the same demographic and your friends on Facebook, and so because she likes it, we
Yeah.
thought that you'd like it, and it's just like this
Yeah.
very, I don't know, it's sinister, but it's also just kind of like logical. You're both white females. Maybe you'd both like that rug. Right?
You want to buy all the same things because you're
Except we
best
don't,
friends.
because we have
Yeah.
different tastes.
Yeah.
Ugh. Okay. Um so the name Polybius comes from the name of a Greek philosopher born approximately 208 BCE in Megalopolis, Arcadia. I love it.
Megalopolis.
I
It's
know
great.
where's Megatron and
Yeah.
that guy from The Incredibles? I don't know. And he was best known for his affinity for cryptography and puzzles, and he was the creator of the Polybius square, which then I wrote, don't ask, because LOL, it has to do with fractionating plain text characters so that they can be represented by a smaller set of symbols, which is useful for telegraphy, stenography, and cryptography. I'm sorry. The device was originally used for fire signaling, allowing for the coded transmission of any message, not just a finite amount of predetermined options, as was the convention before. So basically, I have no fucking clue what a Polybius square is.
Yeah. Like, what? What does
It's a
that mean?
the Wikipedia. I was like, this looks like a Wordle square. If it had numbers in it, it would look like a what's the one they do with the numbers nowadays?
Sudoku?
Sudoku. I'm like, this just looks like a grid. I don't understand.
Okay.
Yeah,
Weird.
yeah, I don't understand. I assume they're simplifying language in some way, which was all I could ascertain from that
Yeah.
quote. I
Sometimes
thought I
I'm like, I still can't understand it, and it was written the most stupid it could possibly be. I was like, and I still don't get it.
can you tell I put a quote in when I'm like, well, maybe if I say it out loud, they'll understand it because I don't understand what that means.
I do that too, yeah.
Yeah. I think it was simplifying things for conversation, but that's about it. Best I can do. Yeah, strangely enough, the legend originated in the late 80s, and then popped back up into popular culture on or around, according to this source, February 6, 2003, which was when a listing for the game came up on a coinop.org.
Okay, I was gonna say that's very specific.
So specific. Also, a coin op was sometimes what they called a cabinet arcade game. At least,
Okay, because it's coin operated.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say, at least I ran across that at one point. And the coinop.org was, or is, I don't know, still a digital museum and database for arcade gaming.
Huh.
Just what everyone needs.
Yeah.
um, The page listed the game as copyrighted in 1981 and briefly mentioned some bizarre reactions to playing the game. And this article or whatever post was believed to have been written by the website owner, Kurt Collar. So the owner of the coinop.org, they were like, he did it. What we do seem to know is that he did want some publicity, as he did tip off a writer named Dan Electro of Game Pro, a big name in games. I wrote that sentence. Yes, I did. Big name in games. Also, Dan Electro, I literally pretty much only included that because I was like, Electro is the kind of techno that Pat used to play. Like, that's gotta be a made up last name. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
I don't think anybody's passing that down from generation to generation. Electro.
Yeah, I think it's a Spider-Man villain also, because Jamie Foxx plays that guy that's got like electricity problems. I don't know. Anywho, it also then got picked up by a Slashdot, which was quote unquote the closest thing to going viral in the early aughts.
Oh.
Yeah, before the social medias. If it was a masked marketing scheme, a la kind of the Dybbuk box probable origins, if you guys recall, it probably worked quite well.
Yeah.
Yeah, because from what I kind of uncovered about that one too, was that it did seem like it could be traced back to one of the owners that kind of maybe wanted to make a little splash with it. But it's since become the subject of TV shows, music videos, documentaries, investigations, and an episode of The Simpsons, which is arguably the ultimate pop culture honor, in my opinion.
Wow.
We have to make The Simpsons. No.
Has any podcast ever made The Simpsons?
Well, I watched the one recently where Marge and Lisa got into listening to true crime podcasts.
Oh,
I think
gosh.
Lisa was listening to them all night, and Marge found her like under the covers, like eyes red, like just like cracked out listening to it, like addicted. And then they so they made fun of the genre, which was funny, and they went to like a true crime con, and the person was like, I just hope that you like don't make fun of my vocal fry. And I was like, oh, right. That's what people don't like.
Jeez.
Yeah. It was cute. No one specifically, but we don't like anyone that specifically makes fun of podcasts. That's mean.
Yeah. No, I thought like if maybe you know how people go on there and they play themselves. I thought maybe one of the top people had been like on there playing themselves or something.
Right?
Yeah.
You'd think someone would be famous enough? Yep. Okay. Like Joe Rogan or fucking what's his name? The movies. Kevin Smith, because he's been in podcasting a really long time too. And the other one I listened to, Chris Jericho, the wrestler. They've both been doing it since like before 2010, which to me is the longest time ever.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, they have the Chili Peppers on there, which I loved. Then Barney the drunk was like, "We want Chili Willy." Makes me laugh every time. So you might wonder, what other honors it achieved. There was a documentary called Polybius, the video game that doesn't exist, by a filmmaker named Stuart Brown of Ahoy?
Ahoy? Chips Ahoy?
It literally didn't say Ahoy Network, so I don't know.
Ahoy?
Ahoy hoy? Mr. Burns answers the phone.
Just sounds like the reverse of Yahoo. Ahoy?
Oh god. Yahoo! No, it is. It basically is. Oh my god. I don't like it. Okay, so there are some this article pointed to some similar themed stories of I guess, fake video games. I'm like, what am I trying to say?
Jumanji.
Yes! Oh my god. Would you play Jumanji, though?
My work, we actually sell Jumanji, the board game. And its box is like based on the original movie from the 90s and the characters, and it's like an actual board game and everything.
Oh no! I would play that
I've
for the clout, for the video.
Yeah, I've convinced myself a couple times not to buy it. But maybe one
No
time.
way.
Uh,
Although it is
yeah.
fun to think there could be a newer version now, because the newer ones, they like
Yeah,
actually
they
have
could.
more of a video game. Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be.
Oh.
I'm sure eventually they will do a video game for it. Uh, but it was cool. They did a board
Hell
game a few years ago for it.
Damn. I love that. I've like never even thought of buying it. But well, this is similar because there was some that got made. 1984's The Last Starfighter. It tells the story of a boy that was so good at video games that aliens recruit him to wage an intergalactic war. So that was a
So weird.
movie? Have we not seen? Okay, there's a few that have this similar thing, though, I feel like. They also mentioned one called Nightmares that was a 1983 horror anthology featuring a vignette called The Battle of Bishop. And this fictional game was so addictive in this short that it sucks in a young Emilio Estevez. It sucks him into a secret 13th level. Do you know who Emilio Estevez is?
Yes.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
he's Charlie Sheen's brother, and I don't know if I would have known that if Pat hadn't told me.
Oh, I always forget that, but I just know him from The Breakfast Club. So,
Okay. Do you know what, to be honest, I didn't know. Because you've seen some older movies and stuff like that, and, like, to me, that's an older movie. Because it came out when I was too young to appreciate it. Like, I was born in the late 80s, so.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, him. I loved this quote from the Polybius article. To understand the truth behind the legend, one must fall down an internet rabbit hole that spans both time and cyberspace. Dirty. That's what my mom would say. Twilight Zone. Yeah. So all the pictures online that you'll see, if I had included any of them for you to look at the moment, are the same old looking blurry photos of the game's cabinet and marquee with the screenshot like of the title screen, and it just shows the game name Polybius in its distinctive script.
Oh, okay.
And then it says circa 1981 Sinuslotion Inc. Also, I managed to make the C circa thing. I did it on the keyboard and I was like, I didn't know how to do that. Anyway. It made the circle in a little, it made the C in a little circle. Whatever. I didn't know I could do that on the keyboard before today.
Oh, I don't know what you mean.
Kind of like TM is like tiny. It's like the little C that's just in a circle, like for like circa or trademark or whatever the fuck it means. But the Sinuslotion, the supposed company name, it's German and it roughly translates to sense deleting or sensory deprivation.
Oh.
I know, it's kind of weird.
Creepy.
But seems to be a fake thing. It never existed in Germany or the US or Japan, which apparently is some sort of like arcade mecca kind of place.
Yeah.
Makes sense, I guess. Mario and all that.
Yeah.
The large letters in the name of the title screen would have been very expensive to produce or display at the time, especially for like a title screen. They just said it would have used up so much memory that it probably would have been unlikely, or unfeasible.
Huh. Weird.
I know, and I will put pictures of this up on the social media and the website and whatever we'll have to do, because it does the font sort of resembles an East German cabinet arcade game that's called Polyplay. So if you would like see them side by side, Polybius, Polyplay, like the font is the same. It's very like
Okay.
retro. Yeah. It's like, instead of the Y going down under the line, it's like, up center with the line. It's like this whole thing. It's very like, I don't know, robotic looking. And I'm like, but I just laughed because I was like, Polyplay. Like, did they have to get rid of that one because the name sounds very ambiguous?
Yeah.
But anywho's it, the sources, some say it was on the web as early as 1994 on Usenet, but those are probably false. And the main theory is that those are confusing Polybius with this Pink Floyd themed puzzle called the Publius Enigma. Yes, that's right. You might have to be high to understand this episode. I know I don't. Let's all just go listen to Pink Floyd. Apparently, this online puzzle became so popular that its name was inexplicably displayed during one of the band's concerts. The puzzle itself is near incomprehensible and has never been solved.
What? I have to look up this puzzle. Hold on.
That you might have to. There's something that called the Polybius square that I think I might mention at some point. It's all so weird. Also, yeah, a puzzle that's never been solved. What is it? Russ's boyfriend's really good at those. Les, he can do those Rubik's cubes real fast. Does that mean you could solve this unsolvable square?
What is it? What was it called? Pooh something?
This Pink Floyd themed puzzle is called Publius Enigma. Yeah. Well, it's like pub. Yeah, like Publius.
Oh, like Publius.
Yeah, that's how it be
I just
spelled,
want
I
an
guess.
image of the Publius.
I have no idea. I did not see an image come up when I was doing research for that.
Yeah, all I see is like Enigma, the endless enigma.
Keep in mind how this was like 20 years ago on the internet. Like that internet almost like doesn't exist now. It's so hard to find those
incomprehensible. I was watching something. Oh no, Bailey Sarian was talking about it. She's like, you remember back when websites weren't like beautiful? Where you could tell a company made their own website and it was like shit and it was like black with like lime green or hot pink writing and you're like, this is the H&M website.
Yeah, H&M, HTML maybe?
Well, like, no, just different. All the different companies just had really shitty websites.
Yeah.
None of them looked. All of them were just crazy. You'd go onto the page and just like background music would start playing for no reason.
And everyone always jokes there was Comic Sans type font everywhere.
But she's like, I miss those days when places like had shitty websites and
MySpace. I'm like, I never had a MySpace. I miss this phase. I don't know.
I didn't have MySpace either.
No. I should have been like the right age for it. I don't know. Sorry, Taylor Swift.
I was a lot. I did like Hotmail and then like MSN Messenger I had.
Yeah, messaging was just becoming a thing. Like that was enough to be going on with.
Yeah, that's really like most of what I used for.
Yeah, this is my shallow dive on the Polybius. As a page or two more. Because that's a shallow dive, you know me. But yeah, it was interesting. They said, okay, there's the possibility that people may have been confusing Polybius with a real game called Tempest. Did I say this? I don't think so.
No.
Okay. This game was real and really caused some people some discomfort. Michael Lopez of Beaverton, Oregon, recalls suffering from a sudden migraine while playing, and he had been playing Tempest with some friends at the Malibu Grand Prix arcade. He said, I began to feel a weird sensation in the back of my head. Then my vision started going out. Little flashing lights, recalls Lopez. Suddenly I got sick and stumbled outside where I threw up all over the parking lot. One of my friends walked with me back home, but we didn't make it all the way there. My head hurt so bad, it got to where I couldn't speak. I couldn't walk anymore. I collapsed on someone's lawn 4 blocks from my house, rolling and screaming in pain. It felt like my head was cracking open. Someone called the cops. That was the first migraine headache I had ever had. I've had them on and off my whole life since, but it was freaky because I didn't know what was happening at the time.
Oh, weird.
Yeah, sounds
Maybe
like
you just played too many video games the one day.
That's a bit of a theme here. There's a
Yeah, I was
couple.
like, I get really bad headaches and stuff that won't go away basically until I go to sleep. But I get them
Really?
from like if I'm looking at a light source straight on, it's normally fine, but if it comes from like the side or like the corner of my eye or
Yeah.
anything, I tend to get them.
Oh, wow.
So if I have lights on in my house, I have to make sure that basically the like light bulb and everything is like behind me and I can't see it. Like the light is fine, but like the light actual bulb has to be behind me or it'll be like too much
Hmm.
light coming in from like some direction. Uh
Yeah.
and then like
Like if it was
reflective.
in your rearview mirror, it would be
Yeah, that
blinding you for sure. Yeah.
yeah. And then, yeah, like reflections of light off people's windshields or shiny cars and stuff like that in the summer will really get me. And then
Yeah.
like,
I just hate those LED lights.
yes. And like
Yeah.
screeching noises and stuff can do it too. Like,
Oh.
I think that could do it like anybody would get a headache from like just a scream, like screaming children.
Yeah,
Just like
yeah.
stuff like that. Yeah. But
I
I
expect
get
so.
them. I get them all the time. So I can feel that. Like if you're standing there staring in a dark arcade and you're staring and just so intently focusing on a screen of a video game.
Yeah. And this was the
Like,
early days of that too, where
yeah.
I mean, yeah, people could be glued to their TVs, but since what, the 50s? Like
Yeah.
it's only the 60s, 70s that most people started actually having a TV in their house.
Yeah.
Yeah. um yeah, that was one of the accounts. There's a few that have to do with video games ish, but I mean, it's kind of like the whole argument of do video games make people more violent? Like, there's so many
Yeah.
factors, it's kind of unfair. Um, there was a case of a gamer from the Netherlands named Jeff Daly who suffered a heart attack and died after getting his name on a high score list of the game Berserk.
It's just so exciting. That's,
No, but
that sucks.
no, it does because he was very young. He was only 18 years old,
Really?
which is like,
Wow.
yeah. So he had been playing at the Friar Tuck game room, but likely from what I read, he had some heart tissue scarring already that was probably unknown. Because to
Okay.
completely have no
Yeah.
known heart issues and then just die and they find like nothing wrong with your heart, like that would be pretty fucking crazy. But they found like a little
Okay.
bit wrong with his heart. But still, it was just like
Jeez.
fucking 18. Like they hadn't
Yeah,
known
that's
that he had,
brutal.
yeah, he had no known heart conditions. Um, a second man named Peter Bukowski met a similar fate when he died of heart failure, possibly due to myocardial inflammation, while playing again Berserk.
Oh shit.
I know, not Polybius, but it's not real. Anyway, and the third story saw a Brian Morrow play asteroids for 28 hours straight
Oh
while
god.
chugging Coke, you know. And he collapsed soon after, but I
Yeah,
expect
I would
that's
think so.
to be expected a little bit, yeah. He did survive, however. All this at a time when many still saw gaming as sort of a passing fad, so this news was obviously quite alarming to these adults, especially after the whole we're afraid of Satan era. I don't know, that's my own thought, but
Get rid of Miss Pac-Man.
everything's evil. It should still be alarming today how addictive things can be, is my little
Yeah.
editorializing.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Oh, and then I referenced to myself in my notes, was it Wall-E? And when you see
Wow.
yes, but instead of the robots, all the humans are so fat, they're just sitting in front of screens
Yes.
and they can't move. It's just like, oh my god, too real.
Yeah.
But let's wonder, was the government actually worried about arcade games? So you could look to the FBI. So this article said the Bureau's records indicate that the agency actually was monitoring and subsequently raiding arcades in the Portland area right around the time that the stories of players collapsing in arcades had hit the mainstream media. Love it.
Okay.
In those days, arcades, which are naturally dark and maze-like, had seedy reputations as hotbeds of gambling, drug activity, and pickpockets looking to prey on teenagers. Though the extent to which arcades captured the public imagination was out of proportion with the actual issues in the establishments, some of that reputation was earned. Cabinets were being repurposed for gambling. People were selling weed in between rounds of Pac-Man. There are pickpockets wherever teenagers tend to gather, especially in the days before cell phones. End quote.
Selling weed in between rounds of Miss Pac-Man.
Seriously,
hey guys, wanna come to the
bad
arcade?
criminal
I
activity.
have to go meet my dealer. He hangs out by Miss Pac-Man.
Yeah,
great.
exactly. But apparently even classic cabinets were outfitted with, my words, old-timey spyware. Hidden or tiny cameras and mics were placed in Tempest, Scramble, and Galaxian games. So that actually happened, which is weird. Tempest was chosen because of its glass bezels that were ideal for hiding cameras behind. So I assume just the glass fronted marquees or whatever. But yeah, the idea was to catch potential criminals, I guess, according to the last statement, maybe doing drug deals or something like that. But
that's so weird.
It's very unclear why that would be so suspect. But like we hardly knew anything about technology then, and we're still kind of afraid of it now. I mean,
I just don't understand why they wouldn't just put security cameras in the arcade instead of inside the arcade games.
If your actual fear is drug deals and fights and stuff, yeah, you're gonna see more from the angle of above, like they put most cameras, rather than from a waist high, like
crotch level
gate. Yeah. I saw a bunch of guys like moving their thumbs around a lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
But so many of these games had cameras installed that at one point it caused a shortage of Tempest machines in Seattle in the early 80s.
Jeez.
Picture the men in black strolling in and rolling out the machines only to bring them back later. Like, no wonder people were a little freaked out. They're like, what the fuck?
Yeah, I can believe they thought the men in black were stealing data out of the thing because they were putting in fucking cameras.
It's like, what else can they do with these things? Yeah, at the time we believed, I'm sure anything could be in a lipstick spy cartridge, or I don't know.
Yeah, Bond. James Bond.
I mean, we've only gotten better at it.
Yeah.
So some fan games have been developed of Polybius, making it an urban legend turned real lore, or whatever you want to call it. It's a
Fun.
real game. The first one was just a gooddealgames.com, released in April 2004, that was called Polybius.exe, which you would go into to play, and then a warning would pop up that said, the Polybius video game has been linked to impaired memory and psychological changes. Gameplay may cause epileptic seizures in susceptible individuals. Do you still want to continue? Then
Hell yes.
yeah, you get to the title screen. If you clicked on anything, then it would just crash and pop up with April Fools.
Aw, that sucks.
I
Boo.
know. This was maybe the first attempt. No, I don't know. But then I found a quote. Freeware developers Rogue Synapse, known for creating fan-made cabinets of arcade games which never existed, like the one from the last Starfighter, developed and distributed a game named Polybius in 2007, the year my daughter was born. This version attempts to faithfully recreate the gameplay as described in the urban legend, including, quote, trippy visuals and subliminal messages. In an effort to further the immersive prank, the company's owner, Dr. Estil Vance, registered the URL sinislotion.com and trademarked the usage of the name Polybius, though noted that it wasn't an authentic original and was simply an attempt to recreate the Polybius game as it might have existed in 1981. Which is
Fun.
still cool.
Yeah. I like
If you-
people that do that. That's a fun thing to do.
Especially if people were like interested in this and were like, I would have played that game.
Yeah.
But apparently the most accessible, I don't know, I haven't looked them up, but I would say is the one by Lamasoft, which is available on the PS4 and the
Oh god.
PSVR. Yeah, I don't know that one. Like, I know Xbox and PS4, but this one was released in 2016. It had apparently, quote, vector-like graphics, which sounded kind of retro to me.
Yeah, it probably means it's like shitty. Very pixelated.
Well, I do think it's supposed to look a little old, kind of like,
Yeah.
I don't know, Tron, maybe versus Tron Legacy. Old versus kind of still looks retro.
Yeah.
I don't know. And it was actually used in a music video for Less Than by Nine Inch Nails in 2017. So I thought that was cool. I like Nine Inch Nails. But the prevailing theory remains that it was invented by that Kurt Collar to promote his website, that I think it was that coinop.com. And maybe it was just a little bit of a conspiracy theory before that. So we might never know, but that is the story
Weird.
of the Polybius anyway.
It's just like people are so adamant that fuck, what is that movie? Kazam or whatever the fucking one?
Oh, the Shazam has like a whatchamacallit, glitch in the Matrix, Mandela effect about it. Yeah. People
yeah,
think
the
that
like
there's
people think the one movie had like this whole movie and they're confusing it with a different movie.
Yeah, because one has Sinbad and the other one has
Yeah.
like fucking Shaquille O'Neal.
Yeah.
But one of them's real and one of them's not. I can't remember right now.
And I also could have sworn I had seen both. Like 100%.
Yeah, they both sound very plausible to me. Like
Yeah.
a lot of those ones, I'm not sure what to believe in when you go glitch in the Matrix and then like Berenstain Bears. I'm like, I mean, I remember us pronouncing it this way, but I thought it was spelled that way. So I'm like, I don't know. I've been drinking the
Yeah.
Kool-Aid since I was a kid, maybe.
Yeah, that one always gets me, and I can't remember the other
Yeah.
one. Where it's like, wait, that didn't happen? Like,
Oh my god, because there's so many that one's named after.
yeah.
I love the urban legends, these modern ones. I love the glitch in the Matrix. I love anything
Yeah.
that's like, yeah, that could happen to us this day, this time. You know what I mean? Like this shit is still going on. It's crazy.
Well, I know like recently people created their own. They did it on Tumblr. They made news sources started talking about it because they basically faked this movie and said, I think it was by like Scorsese,
Okay.
and had something Chekhov or whatever, and they're like, it's the best movie that was never made, and like
Oh my God.
like it ended up getting an IMDb page, and like people were making trailers
No.
for it, and people were writing scripts, and like all these stills that were being like edited, and people were talking about specific scenes like they had actually happened. It was like, oh, didn't it rip your heart out when so and so did this? And then they were getting like actual
Really?
people to comment on it, being like, have you seen this movie? And it kind of like blew up, and it
What?
became this thing just out of nowhere. One day somebody just started and was like, hey, didn't you guys see this movie? Like, I
So
don't know
it's
what their
not a real
intention was.
movie.
No.
Okay, because
At
when you first
all.
started talking, I'm thinking about there's so much talk nowadays about AI generated chat
Oh no, this is just like
GPT, this, that, and the
people
other
on
thing.
Tumblr thought it would be funny to pretend this movie existed, and they got really deep about it.
Oh my
like
God. I
to
could
the point
believe
where
that.
there was people like crowdsourcing that somebody was going to write a full script and then actually make the movie.
I
It was
mean,
like,
sure.
it's like,
Someone should
okay,
make Threat Level Midnight from The Office, and come on, we'd
yeah.
all watch it.
Didn't they
That's
release the whole
crazy.
thing? I'm sure they
I
released the
don't
whole
know.
thing.
I don't know, but the Office ladies, which I do listen to, and they usually just break down The Office,
Yeah.
they are getting close to the end of The Office, so they've been kind of mentioning different things that they like to watch, and like I think they mentioned John Wick and stuff, and so I was just telling Pat that like instead of breaking down an episode of The Office, they just broke down an episode. They just broke down Speed, the movie Speed, and that was so fun. And they were swooning over Keanu and talking about
I
all
love Keanu, okay?
the action sequences. I'll just say that because if you call them stunts and he's on a podcast, he'll be like, they're not stunts. We really do that. And you're like, oh, shit, okay.
Okay, Keanu, okay.
He's so cute. Whatever you say, Keanu.
I know. I love Keanu Reeves.
Amazing. Ugh.
Yeah.
Anyway. Yeah, Ressa, my sister just downloaded an episode of Smartless, which is, what, was he just on Smartless? No, I guess he wasn't, but I was thinking about that show because they talk about him too and stuff. Who knows? But Ressa was like, oh yeah, I just downloaded an episode of Smartless because they talked about Barry on it and they had on Bill Hader. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. I
Nice.
should listen to that. And she was like, oh no, you'll get spoiled. And I was like, well, sometimes I don't mind getting a little spoiler, especially if it's a show I don't know if I'm gonna watch, and then I hear like a little enticing spoiler. Like maybe I wasn't gonna watch it anyway, and then I hear something and I'm like, now I want to watch it.
I do want to watch it. It's supposed to be really good. I just haven't yet.
Yeah. Ressa sent me some scene where Guillermo del Toro was in it as a cameo, like the director, and he was like
Nice.
talking to them about podcasts, and he was like, well, sometimes you're listening to a podcast, they tell you to look at a link, but you can't look at a link, you're driving. And I was like, okay, yeah, that was pretty funny. I can relate.
Yeah.
It was cute. Yeah.
Nice.
It's on Crave. Maybe I think I should be able to check it out.
Oh, I don't have Crave. I'd have to like
Come over
download
to my
it or
house.
yeah, or come to your house.
All right, well, we'll have a viewing party soon. Okay, so that's the end of it for this today. Sorry, guys. You got the dark side for now.
Yeah.
If we cut it here, then we'll see you next week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Possibly a part 2.
Or we might be keeping it cryptic until, well, the next one that we have on the docket is Kids Who Kill. So that should be fucking fucked up. Woohoo! Catch you next week.
Yeah, bye.
Keep it cryptic. I got to burp. It's okay. I gotta edit. No.
Excuse me, my turn to burp. This has been Castles and Cryptids. You can listen to our podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Anchor, Breaker, Pocket Cast, and our YouTube channel. Please rate, review, and subscribe wherever you listen. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Reddit. On our website, you can listen to all of our episodes as well as view pictures for each of our segments. Check out our Patreon page to view all of our tiers and become a Patreon supporter today to unlock monthly bonus episodes and behind-the-scenes content. We are working on an Ask Us Anything. You can submit questions by social media or by email at castlesandcryptids@gmail.com. Do you have a spooky ghost story, a creepy cryptid sighting, or a thrilling true crime tale you would like to share and have us include in a future episode? Send us your listener story by social media or by email. Please include the name that you would like mentioned. Our music is by Kobe Fair. Our logo and artwork is by Antonio Garcia. Thanks for listening.